The reviews team at America's Test Kitchen has been working overtime testing out all the latest and greatest kitchen gear.
And today we're bringing you our 2024 Gearheads gift guide, the absolute best of the best, all wrapped up for you.
We've got gift ideas under $15, under $100, and some splurge-worthy gear to satisfy all of the gearheads on your shopping list.
Do you mean gifts like kitchen gear, the ultimate owner's manual, available now at americastestkitchen.com?
Yup, and that's not all. We're also giving away a year-long America's Test Kitchen digital membership to one lucky channel subscriber.
To enter, drop a comment telling us what kitchen gear you'd love to see us review next. We'll choose one lucky winner at random to receive a full year of ATK digital access, including 14,000 science-backed recipes, 800 plus unbiased product reviews, and much, much more. For all the details, check out the link in the description.
All right, enough chit-chat. Let's dive into our gift guide. I love this thing. It's the Kuhn Swiss vegetable peeler, and I use it at home all the time. It's incredibly sharp, it's durable. This thing can whip through any kind of produce really quickly. This has a carbon steel blade. It is like a fine chef's knife. It's very sharp and it stays sharp. It has a little ridge on the back that holds the cutting blade at exactly the right depth. So you've seen peelers where when you're peeling, you're getting so much food that the carrot is all faceted at the end. I measured the thickness of peels from a bunch of different peelers, and these peels are beautiful. They're so nice and thin, you can almost see through them. You're not throwing away half the carrot as you peel it. And you've also seen peelers where you're going over the same spot 3-4 times just to get something off of that food. This gets just the right depth. It really is kind of the Goldilocks moment. This is called the bridge, this area that holds the ends of the blade. And this is just about an inch from blade to the back of the bridge. And that means that food can pass through and not get stuck. We've seen some where it's very, very close. Food is jamming up in there. You're constantly stopping, pulling it out. We just don't see those kinds of jams with this perfect little blade. It's very lightweight. It's plastic. Now you might think, oh, well, that's cheap. I want something heavy. If you're actually doing a whole bunch of food prep, your hand is fatigued. You're trying to control a heavy object. This is very light and very sharp. And you can just flick, 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 and your carrot is peeled perfectly. So this is a vegetable peeler, but it can do so much more. You can make Parmesan shavings to put on your salad. You can even make chocolate curls for your desserts. I put them on cupcakes and all kinds of things. You can hide a lot of frosting sins this way. You just want to warm it a little bit with your hand, and then you basically drag it across the top, and you can make different widths depending on where you're pressing and your chocolate. You can make cool little shavings like that, and you just pile them up on top of your cake. Chocolate melts just above body temperature. So if you get it a little bit warm first, it will actually curl the chocolate and you'll get a beautiful, there we go, look at that. And if you do it right, you can get long, gorgeous curls with this.
All of the very serious Cooks Illustrated chefs, they will geek out about these tiny, cute little whisks. We love an all-purpose whisk too, but these little ones, first of all, adorable. But second of all, these can be incredibly useful. I reach for mine all the time. Right here I have this balsamic mustard vinaigrette. You can use a big whisk for that, of course, but what the little whisk allows you to do is use whatever vessel you want for your vinaigrette. I want to put my vinaigrette in a little jar. I want to mix it in a little jar so I can do everything right in there without dirtying additional dishes, whisking a can of coconut milk that hasn't completely combined. You can reincorporate right inside that little can. This is one of those tools too where you buy it for one thing and then all of a sudden you find yourself using it for all different things. So it just makes things a little more convenient and allows you to sort of finagle into different containers that your big whisk might not be as agile in. All right, so I have our winner here from Tovolo. So we found out that actually it can make a big difference what brand you buy for mini whisk, and that may be surprising, but we noticed a trend. Those with broader heads and more loops whisked more efficiently. Those with narrower heads and fewer loops, they took longer to combine ingredients, and any way I can take a shortcut and do less work, I certainly will. All right, so the handle mattered too. Length, we like medium length handles. Some were so small, you were like, that didn't work. Some were bigger and you had to choke up on them to actually get control. This was a Goldilocks situation. We liked the medium ones. We also preferred ones that were a little bigger. Some of these were like holding onto a pencil. They were so narrow, it's hard to get any sort of force through your hand into the whisk. So a little bit of a thicker handle gave us something to hold on to. We also really liked handles that did not have a loop here. Some of them have a little loop here, for hanging, which sounds nice, but that metal loop dug into your hand while you're whisking, which was not fun at all. We also liked when the loops were completely sealed where they joined the handle. Some of them weren't, and like gunk just gets in there. It's super annoying to clean and pretty gross. I think if you have this whisk around, you will use it way more than you think. That's totally happened in my household, and there's a reason why all these chefs are obsessed with these little things. They're super fun and actually really useful. Next up, champagne savers. So champagne savers are designed to save those bubbles. It does happen where there's leftover champagne. It's never happened to me, but I've heard it happens. You can actually have a bottle of champagne over 3 days with our winner here from Cilio. This can actually keep this fresh and bubbly for a whole week, which is super impressive. It wouldn't last that long in my house, but you could if you wanted to. Now, I know this might not be as useful as, say, like a paring knife or a cutting board, but let me have a little fun here, because this was probably one of the best testings I have ever done. So this just clips right onto the top of the bottle. This is one reason why this one is super easy to attach. Literally, you just put it on, and then to detach, you simply press the top. So it got this little clicker. And you see inside there, it just really clamps down onto the bottle and keeps the bubbles inside. A lot of the models we tested, either they were annoying to use, or yeah, maybe they kept it for a day. But guess what? So does a mason jar and a lid. If you really want your champagne to last for like 3 days or even up to a week, this dedicated champagne saver does such a fantastic job. This is 3 days old at this point, if I may. Let's check it out for science. Can you hear that? I can hear that, and look at those bubbles. It's a hard job, but somebody's gotta do it. It's deliciously effervescent and bubbly still. I know this is not a core product, but it works so well. The Cilio does. Do not mess around with other brands, they just won't work. But this one is such a fun, inexpensive little gift, and it really does work well and keep your champagne super bubbly. This is our ATK recommended model from Dash, the Dash Express Griddle. Simple, small, and inexpensive, this 8-inch round model with flat rather than ridged cooking surfaces was an why not addition to our lineup. Its performance surprised and delighted us. Light, compact, easy to use and clean, it kept pace with pricier models in every test, producing golden, crispy, melty panini, though with no grill marks, which honestly, we didn't mind. Larger, bulkier panini on sub rolls had to be cut in halves to fit, and we needed to press down on the lid with our hands as they grilled, but the results were terrific. We also cooked a few big pancakes one at a time, made fluffy egg and cheese omelets, made ham and cheese panini on sourdough, and much more. If you can't tell, we were just having fun with this thing. Wiping the machine clean and storing it was a breeze. Bottom line, this is not a traditional panini press, and it may not last forever, but it really works, and at around 20 bucks, it could certainly be a worthy addition to your kitchen arsenal.
The immersion blender has a really powerful little motor in the stick here and a little blade at the bottom. And you just put this into a chunky soup after you cook it right in the pan and puree it to the exact texture you want. If you only want to do some of the vegetables or whatever, or all of it, this can do the job right in the pot, no muss, no fuss. This is the Braun Multiquick 5. It's our winner for a few reasons. One, it has this nice handle that's comfortable to hold, and it turns back a little bit so it stays in your hand. It's got a grippy silicone sleeve here so it doesn't slide, and it's really lightweight for its power, so you're not like tired while you're using this. Some of them are just heavy and clunky. This is very easy to manipulate. It has speeds right here, 2 buttons, and they really did different things. They have different power levels, unlike a lot of the other ones that we tested where they had like a bunch of settings and no difference. It has really good speed and good sharp blades. And this little housing over it helps the food circulate through the blades so you can get a nice smooth texture. Immerse it into the liquid before you turn it on, because if you have it on and putting it in, you're gonna wear that stuff, whatever it is. This is the motor. This comes off, you wash this in 2 seconds and you're done. So let's puree some creamless, creamy tomato soup right in the pot. We're gonna just put it in the pot and we're gonna turn it on. I like to move it around the pot. You can also leave it in the center, but then only the stuff right around the blade is going in. So I just chase it around. It is honestly kind of fun. And if you notice there's any bigger chunks that aren't going in, you can like stop and just drop the cage right on top of it. This stops the minute you let go of the buttons, and it's not hard to push. Some of them you have to really squeeze it while you're running it, and it's a pain. The nice thing is you get ultimate control. You can stop when you think it looks good, or you keep going till you think it's really silky. When it's off, you pull it out, release the blades by squeezing these two little buttons here. So let's serve some soup. Look at that beautiful, creamy, smooth texture.
A couple years ago, we rounded up a slew of indoor pizza ovens and tested all of them, and to be honest, the results were disappointing. They were not good. Our solution for baking pizza at home indoors was a pizza stone or a pizza steel. We slightly prefer a steel, a little more durable, conducts heat a little bit differently and making a slightly more tender and airy crust. The downside is, to get great results with a pizza stone or steel, you'd need to preheat your oven for an hour. Now, that's a long time. So when Breville announced the Pizzaiolo, our producer Will speaks Italian, he wants everyone to know. But when Breville announced this, we were super excited and we had to put it to the test. This thing promises to reach 750 degrees professional pizza oven temperatures and to do so in 10 to 20 minutes. Also attention grabbing, the price. It is $1,000. But this machine promises a lot. So we bought one and tested it. That's right, we bought one. We purchase all of our own products and we never accept advertising. This is not an ad, remember that. Let's start with how it works. There are two coiled heating elements, one underneath the stone and one in the roof of the oven. And it has 7 settings, everything from pan pizza, thin and crispy, to wood-fired. It also has a manual mode where you can dial in exactly what you want. To test this thing out, we held a 2-week pizza party in the kitchen. And even our most seasoned pizza makers here were thoroughly impressed. This machine put out beautiful pizzas, thin, tender, with crispy crusts. We were really amazed at what this can do. By the end of testing, we all wanted one of these things. The oven heats up quickly and stays hot. It can cook some pizzas like thin crust in 2 to 4 minutes. It also stays relatively cool on the outside. You know, you wouldn't want to lean up against it, but it does stay relatively cool. We also really liked that the pizza stone slides outwards and downwards when you open the door, so it's safer and easier to reach. When you close the door, it slides right back into position. The controls were super easy to use, clear dials, easy to understand. Now let's get into the drawbacks. Obviously, price is a major one. This thing is expensive. Also, weight. It's about 30 pounds, and it also takes up a lot of counter space or a lot of storage space. You're also gonna expect some discoloration from cooking. You'll see that here and on the door. And this is after only a couple uses. The peel is 11 inches, the stone is 12 inches. That means this can make smaller scale pizzas, so larger recipes you're gonna need to scale down. It's gonna cook more on one side than the other, so if you want it to be even, you're gonna need to rotate it during cooking.
Now, we recently tested stand mixers at all price points. This was in the mix. This is a new one. It's new to the United States. It's been going in Sweden and throughout Europe since the 1940s. This is called the Ankarsrum. It has a very radically different design from what we're used to with KitchenAid, which really sort of set the standard in the United States. I have to admit, when we first got this one out of the box, I did not know where to begin or what was what. After total confusion and a lot of research and watching a lot of YouTube videos, because the manual is not that specific, I figured it out. So unlike what we know of as a stand mixer from KitchenAid, where the motor is in the horizontal head on top of the bowl sits on top of the motor, which is enclosed in the base. The bowl turns rather than the beaters, which is kind of different. And the parts are a little odd looking as well. I mean, typically you'll have a whisk for whipping cream and egg whites, paddle for beating batters, and you'll have a hook for dough. This does have those parts, but they look a little different. This is the dough hook, and it travels around the bottom of the bowl, and this part comes up. Next to it, you'll find this blade, and this scrapes continually while it's being kneaded by this dough hook. Third, when you're whipping cream or mixing batter and dough, there is this bowl, which is a clear bowl, and you take off the metal bowl, you put on a stem, this sits on there, the tools will travel around in the bowl. This is an easier way to get at all the ingredients in the bowl when you're trying to whip egg whites or whipped cream, and there's smaller paddles that you can put on to do cookie dough. When you want to do bread dough, pizza, anything like that, this giant steel bowl and these really heavy-duty hooks, you can replace the hook with this, which is a roller, and it literally rolls the dough against the wall of the machine. machine, you can really work a stiff, heavy dough, and you can do a ton of it because it's a big bowl. With a stand mixer, it's all about the torque, which is the twisting force that can push the dough around and move it around the bowl. And this has a ton of torque. In fact, this machine is guaranteed for 7 years, and the manual practically dares you to try to break it. We made really stiff, dry bagel dough, and it's totally fine. You can watch it through this open bowl, and that is really fascinating too, because you can really see what's going on, and adding ingredients is so much easier because there's no big head containing a motor over the top. Not to name names, but KitchenAid tells you never to knead dough above speed 2. And the latest one we tested, the high-end one that compares to this one, it is a great, great machine. It has 11 speeds, and you can only knead dough up to speed 2, which is telling me that they're trying to protect their machine a little bit. Now that said, we mixed dough in it. It took longer, but came out fine. But having to kind of rein it in and make sure that you're not damaging the motor, it was refreshing to not have that. You can go as high as you want in this. With a lot of stand mixers, especially inexpensive ones, they will really struggle when you're mixing doughs that are challenging. They'll rock, they'll walk, they try to climb off the counter and jump onto the floor. This did not walk. This did not move. It was kind of awesome. And the other thing is, honestly, when you think about KitchenAid, some of the things that make that a little more worthwhile are the attachments. In this case, you actually turn this whole machine on its side. So it comes with a blender, a grain mill, a pasta maker, an ice cream machine. It does all the things that you would have an attachment for with KitchenAid for the most part, but they're exclusive to this machine. So you're not giving anything up there. It is around the same price, within $100 of our top-of-the-line, highly recommended 7-quart KitchenAid Pro. It actually has some things that we like just as well, maybe even a little bit better. In terms of, is it worth it? If you are a person who bakes a lot, you may want to invest in this. You know who you are if you're the kind of baker who has burned out machines before. We've had some really great reports from readers commenting to us, so we did test it. You have 2 choices. KitchenAid is not the only name of the game.